Hello and welcome back for episode 3 of Philosophy for Breakfast. You know what it is? I am Discourses. You've got some noisy folks around drinking and smoking. Where should we begin? I should probably start doing this before I start filming. I think we just finished the first. Yeah, we did that bit. When you think of the expression "I am," it means that you know you have God in action expressing in your life. Thus, you can see how important it is for you to know what you are doing when you thoughtlessly use wrong expressions. Now, maybe this is ringing a bell from yesterday. Because you are using the most divine principle of activity in the universe. I am. Do not misunderstand me. This is no idle, foreign, or oriental expression, but the highest principle of life used and expressed throughout every civilization that has ever existed. For the first expression every self-conscious form of life gives is I am. It is only afterwards, in its contact with outer, wrongly qualified activity, that it begins to accept anything less than I am. Now, dear students, I like how he says dear students, not just now listen bud, but dear students. Do you not see that when you say I am sick, you are just reversing this principle of life, which is naturally all perfection, thus requalifying it by your willful ignorance with something which it never naturally possessed? Do you see that? Through long centuries of willful misunderstanding, humanity has charged the very atmosphere about them with falsehood and unreality. For I need not say to you that when you say, I am sick, it is an objective falsehood in respect to your divinity, which cannot be sick. Does this sound harsh to you? Then I say, think it over, and you will see what a blessing and release it can be to you. I say to you, dear students, in the name of God, stop using these wrong expressions of your Godhead, of your divinity, for it is impossible for you to have freedom as long as you continue to do it. I cannot speak of this to you too often, that when you really recognize and accept the mighty presence of God in you, there are positively no adverse conditions. Stop! I say to you, all in capitals, stop. Giving power to the outer conditions, persons, places, or things. And in the name of God, every time you find yourself starting to say, I am sick, I am broke, I am not feeling well, instantly reverse this fatal condition to your progress, and declare silently with all the intensity of your being, I am, which is all health, opulence, perfection, happiness, peace, and the power to recognize perfection in yourself and everywhere else. When you think of the expression I am, it means that you know you have God in action expressing in your life. Do not let these false expressions continue to govern and limit you. Continually remind yourself, I live, move, and have my being and all outer expression in the full opulence of God, made manifest every moment. In thus reminding yourself of this invisible hello, mate. Yeah. Come join. Yeah. Perfection in yourself, and everywhere else. When you think of the expression, I am, it means you know you have God in action expressing in your life. We did that bit. In thus reminding yourself of this invincible, unconquerable presence, you keep the door open for its pure, invincible essence and intelligence to weave into your outer expression that wondrous perfection. I plead with you, dear ones everywhere, do not continue to use these wrong expressions, thinking that in some hocus-pocus way he may slide past, reaping the result. It simply cannot be done. Yeah. And we'll leave it there for today for the I Am Discourses. So yeah, just more warning against using it incorrectly. You know, they're really stressing on that point that when you say that, you activate something that sort of takes on a life of its own. Yeah. Statesman. Look at the Statesman. So, there's a bit more. We've not even got out of the introduction yet. We're doing a bit of the ruler's expertise. How ideal is the ideal ruler? A large chunk of the Statesman is devoted to the myth or story of the age of Cronus, the traditional golden age when, as in the myth of Genesis, humans did not have to work or give birth and, as in other parts of the Judeo-Christian tradition, were shepherded by divine figures. Part of the point of this myth is that the expert ruler we are looking for is not the divine herdsman of the golden age, when the shepherd of the flock was different in kind from the flock, but rather someone whose nature is distinctively human, like the humans he rules over. In the age of Zeus, our world, just as the world itself is now not ruled by the divine will but runs independently by the directives of its own nature, so humans are not ruled directly by divine shepherds, but run themselves independently by the directives of human nature, and the way they are ruled must appeal only to the human nature which is common to ruler and subjects. This seems to be a simple and welcome point. Plato is saying the political theory should not come up with solutions which are so idealized that they have no hope of applying in the world as it is. And this is certainly what Plato's position in the Laws 874e to 875d, when he says that the ideal expert ruler is an unattainable ideal, since it is not in human nature to attain expert knowledge or to remain uncorrupted by the potential for its use on other humans. When this is Plato's firm conclusion, he ceases to devote attention to the expert ruler as a solution to political problems. But in the Statesman, it is harder to see exactly what Plato's position is, for despite his clear application of the myth of the Golden Age, Plato continues to develop the idea that the expert ruler is the best answer to political problems, the best way to produce a state run in the interests of all. Other types of solution are, by the end of the dialogue, firmly relegated to second best. Further, his treatment of the Golden Age myth is itself somewhat elusive. He treats the details of the traditional material in ways that are strikingly surreal, raising unavoidably the question of how seriously he is taking the idea even as a myth. And this in turn clouds the idea of just what the circumstances are, which are being excluded as too ideal for relevance and actual societies. Matters are further complicated here by the fact that the status of the myth is cloudy too. Plato's earlier philosophical myths in the Phaedo, Gorgias or Gorgias, and Republic are like one another in that they are recastings of traditional mythical material to serve a philosophical, defensible, moral, and political purpose. But the Statesman injects a wholly new element. Plato claims that he is rationally reconstructing a story which makes sense of folk memory and folk stories. Actual Greek myths, rather than being rejected as harmful, are now regarded as fragments and shards of a larger story which is, in its outlines, true. We see here the beginnings of a much more empirical and even historical approach to political theory, one which emerges in the immense respect that Plato shows in the Laws for tradition's long-established usages and the lessons of history. but the statesman myth itself wobbles between a number of genres. Which does it most resemble? The myth of in the Republic? The consciously fictional story of Atlantis in the Timaeus Critias? Or the account of Greek prehistory in Laws 3? Well, there's a Laws 3. The sequels are always never as good as the first one, though. The honest but uncomfortable answer is that it resembles all of them and falls neatly into no category. This unclarity, however, adds to the unclarity of the myth's point in the dialogue. After the Republic, Plato is now sure he wants to reject over-idealized accounts of the expert ruler. But just how ideal is over-ideal? Plato has no clear answer to this difficult question. And so it is perhaps not surprising that he both claims to the thought that the truly ideal ruler would not need to use constraint, and also insists that the ideal ruler in an ideal world would be justified in using constraint. The source of the problem seems clearly to be that Plato is still perhaps grimly hanging on to the Republic idea that the best way to produce the best state is to install an ideal ruler while at the same time... Hello. Cheers. Some emergency swimming trunk delivery. The source of problem seems clearly to produce the best state is to install an ideal ruler, while at the same time he is developing positions that create trouble for this idea. When we have seen political rule to be applicable in the real world should recognize a fundamental similarity of ruler and ruled. This is an idea which Plato takes to heart in the Laws, and which is carried further by Aristotle. Another is increased respect for law and institutions. The statesman is unstable because Plato has not yet thought through the degree of compromise that these new ideas demand. Well, that's what this guy says anyway. Cool, so that's interesting. So we're going to hear a little bit about Atlantis maybe, and other Greek myths and stuff, which is going to sort of tie into what the ideal ruler is. And this guy, whoever wrote this introduction, seems to be saying that Plato seems to think that it's better to actually just have one person in charge ruling everything, if they have the right skill set. Shall we? Number 3. Look in thy glass and tell the face thou viewest. Now is the time that face should form another. That face should form another. Whose fresh repair, if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world, unblessed some mother. For where is she so fair whose uneared womb disdains the tillage of thy husbandry? Or who is he so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop prosperity? Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. But if thou live remembered not to be, thy single and thine images dies with thee. Really similar to 1 and 2, that recurring theme. It's almost like he's every day he's just trying to put it in another way, just put it a bit more clearly. Look in thy glass and tell the face thou viewest, now is the time that face should form another. Is that self-explanatory? When you're looking in the mirror, he's telling you, look in the mirror, look at the face you see and go, there should be more of this. We need another one of these. Whose fresh repair, if now thou not renewest, if you don't renew your subscription, thou dost beguile the world, unbless some mother. So your mum, she made you, and she was like, whoa, look at this beautiful angel I've created. You know, what a blessing. If that beautiful angel doesn't go on to make another one, then it's not just your Not just you're letting yourself down and the school down, but you're letting your mum down and all. For where is she so fair whose unaged womb disdains the tillage of thy husbandry? For where is she so fair whose unaged womb disdains the tillage of thy husbandry? So where is the woman who would look at her own children and be like, yeah, average? Or who is he so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop prosperity? And where are all the dads going? No more. Posterity. Did I say? I think I said prosperity. Posterity. I need to check the definition of that. Don't know what that means. Of his self-love to stop posterity. Is that like when you look back and you're sort of regretful? I'm not sure. Could be way off there. Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime. Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee. So you're a glass, like a container, and in you, your mum can call out the beauty that she once had. It will come out in you. Calls back the lovely April of her prime. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. I think the person or the character he's talking about /to, Shakespeare, is in the prime of their life. They're at the most beautiful age, I guess, sort of, I don't know. I mean, Shakespeare died very young. I think he died when he was like 30, so he's probably like 20s maybe even younger at this point. I'm not sure. So I'm passing my prime right now. Despite of wrinkles with this thy golden time. But if thou live, remembered not to be. So if you live, remembered not to be, thy single and thine image dies with thee. But if thou live, remembered not to be, thy single and thine image dies with thee. I think it's like if there's nothing to remember you by, like a child, then your image will die with you. There you go. Sonnet 3. Alright. Thanks again for tuning in. Obviously we're not in the same spot as usual. We've got a bit of a nicer view. Just have a little look here. It's pretty sweet. We're just on the Hollybobs, having a joyous time. But I'm the Poet Prince. Thanks for tuning in, chomming in, whatever. And I'll see you on the next one.